let's start off with the top 3 questions. We're going to discuss 3. There's probably a lot more than 3, but we're going to go through 3 of the top questions, and I wouldn't say this is top 3 and 1, 2, 3, but if you were to say what are the top 10 questions people need to consider if they're going to get into flipping houses, these 3 are definitely in the top 10. And I'll elaborate a little bit on each question. So, let's start with the first one. First question that you may want to ask yourself if it's something that you're looking to getting into doing is, can you leverage private funds for cheaper money versus hard money? Okay, so maybe from family or friends. And let me dive into that a little bit. So a lot of the houses that we buy to fix and flip are in such disrepair that a traditional bank won't give you a traditional loan on that house. It might be missing a kitchen. And if it's missing a kitchen, when the bank sends out their appraiser to check it out to appraise the home, he's going to inform them that there's no kitchen, at which point now the house is inhabitable. And if it's inhabitable, your traditional Zions Bank, Chase Bank, Bank of America, these types of banks are not going to give you these, traditional financing, these traditional mortgages, which are probably the cheapest type of financing you could get. So that would be ideal to be able to access one of those loans. And don't get me wrong, not every single property won't qualify for financing. There might be some that are in great shape. They're just 1950s, right? The house, it's grandma's house. She's never updated, but she kept it immaculate. You'll probably get financing on that home from a traditional loan, and you can then definitely go in there and do your thing. But typically, a lot of these investors will utilize what's called a hard money loan or private loans, and I do both. I'll access hard money loans as well as private loans, and private loans tend to be cheaper because it is somebody that you already have a relationship with. Typically, it is somebody that is more of a friend or family. And hard money loans is typically a professional. To some degree, a lot of hard money loans this is what they do for a living. Some of them do this on the side, but it is more of a professional industry of these individuals that you're going to get to know as far as hard money lenders. Now, I would say that traditional hard money is anywhere from 12 to 15%. And you're probably going to pay anywhere from 2 to 5 points on average. Now, I've seen much higher on hard money, and a lot of it will be dependent on if it's your first deal or if this is something that you've done before. The hard money lender might give you a better deal on their rate if you are experienced versus if this is your very first fix and flip in your whole entire life. Then it's probably going to be a higher interest rate. And the reason is they're going to dictate that rate in many cases based on the risk they're taking loaning it to somebody who's either experienced or not experienced. So an unexperienced person's a higher risk, so they're going to charge higher interest on that particular loan. So if you can get access to private money from friends or family, then that's typically going to be less expensive because depending on what you negotiate with your friends or family, it could be, as little as 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%. I hear that a lot. Usually it's 10% to around 6% on what I hear in my circle, my SOS sphere of influence of people that borrow from their family. They'll typically borrow from around 6 to 10%, which is significantly cheaper than 12 to 15, as you can imagine, which then leaves more profit for you when you go to flip it. Now, a lot of hard money lenders will require a down payment, and a lot of hard money lenders don't. So, depending on who you're working with, you might have a hard money lender that will require you to come up with 25% down. And if that's the case, then another idea that you could do is leverage private money, right? So maybe, let's just say hypothetically, for the sake of easy math, a house that you're looking to purchase is $100,000. Well, you might not have friends or family that have $100,000 laying around. So you want to access a hard money loan. So the hard money lender informs you, yeah, he can loan you the $100,000 with a 25% down payment, which in this case is $25,000. Well, now you have a family member who has $25,000. You just don't have a family or friend that has $100,000. So in this particular case, if you found a hard money lender that requires a down payment 20%, 25%, whatever it may be, to finance the entire acquisition, with the exception of the down payment, you could hypothetically borrow or maybe partner with somebody who has that down payment, the $25,000, at which point you will then be able to acquire the property because the hard money lender will now loan to you. And so that's a great way to be able to leverage a little bit of money from family or friends, or private money for say, if that's something that you are looking to, raise hypothetically. Now, just to be clear, there are also a lot of hard money lenders that if the deal is good, they will loan you 100% of the acquisition, meaning that you don't have to put a down payment. So if you go out there and you find a phenomenal deal with a lot of equity spread, then the hard money lender feels comfortable about the property, where he'll loan you 100% of the acquisition of the property so you can purchase it, and then you will have to most likely come up with the amount of money that's going to take to fix up the house. So if it's going to take $50,000, $60,000, whatever it may be, then that's something you're going to have to possibly raise. Or you could hypothetically borrow from a second lender, and that might be a private lender or a hard money lender. That could be where you go to your friends and family, your sphere of influence, and basically say, hey, listen, I've got this great deal. I've got it 100% financed. I'm looking for a partner or looking for a lender on second position who's willing to loan me $50,000 to fix it up. This is the return on the money based off of what I'm going to be able to pay you, whatever you, of course, negotiate as your interest. If they're a partner, depending on how much you negotiate is their split, 50-50, 60-40, 70-30, whatever it may be. And basically then, at that particular point, you get the whole transaction financed. In many cases, that's the scenario that I do. I will purchase a property utilizing 100% financing from a first hard money lender, or private lender, one or the other. Depends on who has money at the time when I lock up a property, and I'll reach out to my lenders, and whoever has the cheapest money at the time and whoever has the money available at the time is typically who I'm going to go with. And then I'll reach out to other hard money lenders, private lenders, to finance the renovations, because usually if I'm buying a fix and flip, there's enough spread in there that I can leverage two loans and not have to use any of my own money. You always hear of OPM, other people's money. When you borrow 100% financing in an investment, then your return is infinite because you never actually put any money into the deal in the first place. So by leveraging two loans, you hear this term no money down deals, and you're like, how does that happen? That's an example of how somebody will utilize none of their own money down. When you hear that term no money down, it doesn't mean no money necessarily is being involved in getting down into the property. It just means none of the investor or buyer's money is being utilized. So in this case, I would utilize two different lenders. Now, not always. Oftentimes I'll borrow a private loan for the acquisition, and then I'll use my own funds for the renovation in many cases. And by doing that, obviously, you don't have to pay a second lender, which puts a little bit more profit into your pocket. So, it's really deal per deal. But at the end of the day, do you have access to less expensive money through friends, family, sphere of influence that you can utilize in your first flip? If not, you can definitely utilize a hard money loan. It's probably just going to be a little bit expensive, just due to the fact that I explained before, depending on your experience, oftentimes dictates the rate that they're going to charge you. So if you can involve sphere of influences to assist you in private money, then it's going to leave a lot more meat on the bone when you turn around and flip it for your profit. Okay, so if you don't have access to any private money, then my recommendation is you better start jumping on the phone and reaching out to hard money lenders. Just Google them, find them in your local market here in Salt Lake. You'd Google them for Salt Lake, and a lot of hard money lenders here in Salt Lake will loan, in the neighboring counties. But if you're, let's say, outside of Salt Lake in, let's just say Cedar City or something, then you may run into the Salt Lake hard money lenders not necessarily doing loans that far south. Maybe they will, but again, that's why you're going to want to jump on the phone to see what's their lending area. There are a few hard money lenders that I know of that even lend out of state, so they might not be afraid of an investment down south in Cedar City, St. George, or something like that. But the only way to know that is, of course, to jump on the phone and reach out to them to see where their lending area is. Okay. Another question, once you've got your financing lined up, you know who you're going to borrow from to be able to access these properties, because this house is in desperate need of repair and the bank is not going to loan you the money, so you got to go out and find private or hard money. Then are you aware and know enough to understand rehab costs and what we call the ARV. ARV is basically considered the after repair value, the value of the home after you repair it. So what's it going to be worth once you fix it up? You're buying it at this price, but then you're going to fix it up. Your after repair value, what is that going to be? Because that is so important.